everyone. My name is Alice Benitez, and I'm the Business Development Manager for IPL. Today, we're getting to know our Counsel and Director of Business Development, LC, Laura Cole. LC is a distinguished Web3 and blockchain attorney based in South Florida. Laura's expertise in this rapidly evolving field is complemented by her active role with Stanford AI and Web3 Research Lab, Hyperness Accelerator, and Voice Club, a crypto community. Laura is deeply committed to her community, serving as a board member for the City of West Palm Beach Nuisance Abatement Board and as a legacy board member for the Be More Like Claire Foundation. Laura, it's great to have you here today. We're so excited to get to know more about your journey and kind of your experience. So let's dive right in. So do you mind sharing a little bit about your journey to IBL?
Yeah, so I got into IBL because I was part of a community in South Florida called Web3 Equity. It was about women's engagement in Web3. We launched an NFT with Mayor Suarez, and it was a really cool initiative. We did a lot of education and onboarding, and I was doing a bunch of talks for the different programming there. One of our mutual friends saw me speak and knew that IBL was looking for counsel and made the connection between Alex, the managing partner. And so from there, we just kind of hit it off and ran.
That's great. How long have you been with IBL?
Since February of 2022.
Oh, wow, it's been a minute now. So speaking of kind of your journey, what initially drew you to the blockchain and crypto space, and how did your career in law pivot towards technology? Because I know you had a little bit of a pivot there.
Yeah, so when I first started practicing, I was in tax law, and then I moved to South Florida and started doing environmental law, which is where I thought I always wanted to be. Given that I grew up on a farm, I thought an agricultural practice would be the best way to honor my farming background without actually having to be a farmer. But then I got down here and realized it was very politically intertwined, and I was actually hurting farmers more than I was helping them because of new political stances. The new governor got hired, and that got really complicated. So I was getting pretty jaded with my day job, and I started just going to events in Miami after work, talking to founders. Like the founder of Rarible was at some coffee shop on a Tuesday, and I'm just in a room talking to them about what they're building and other builders, and definitely just being a sponge, trying to learn as much as I could, asking a lot of questions, and then offering what I could, given that I wasn't that deep into the tech world. But I think one of the great things about Web3 is that it really rewards hands-on learning, meaning that everyone has something to contribute into this space. And if you just contribute what you can, you'll get a wealth of knowledge right back. And that's what I did. I helped early stage founders with their contracts, and early stage founders understanding their white paper, and some friction with SEC issues right off the bat. And they immediately were grateful and were happy to educate me a little bit more on the technical aspects of blockchain.
That's great. And I know so much is always changing in the crypto space. So looking at the current landscape, what do you see are the current biggest challenges and opportunities in that sector?
I think we're really just seeing this boom happen now that we've got institutional buy-in. The ETFs are approved. This is more established. This isn't just oh, what's that thing? This is definitely something that industry is paying attention to, and Web2 is dipping their toes and whole bodies into now. So it's exciting because there's a lot more interest, there's a lot more stability, and there's foundation for what's being built. And I think we'll see big strides being made in terms of how we look at digital assets, how we build out digital assets, and how we intertwine digital assets into our already existing digital footprints.
Yeah, and going into a little bit of your experience, and what do you see as the most common legal issues or challenges that you typically encounter in the blockchain space? I know everyone kind of has a different answer, but what do you feel like is the biggest challenge?
Well, I tend to hang out with a lot of devs. I'm very, on feet on the ground. So I think the biggest question I get from devs is I want to launch a token. How do I do it? Or, I launched a token. Am I in trouble? Or I own a bunch of meme coins. What's the issue? Am I going to be in trouble? Or I tweeted this. Am I going to be in trouble? So I think in terms of on a ground level, it's people want to know, are they going to get in trouble for what they did or what they want to do? Which isn't so scary if you just kind of build thoughtfully. But this is definitely a space where people build first and ask questions later, so they can get themselves into kind of a lot of trouble if they're not paying attention, or if they're kind of like not thinking about the big picture on day one. You can definitely find yourself needing a lawyer really quickly. So I think the one of the biggest hurdles is just understanding what you don't know and how impactful it can be.
Yeah. And speaking of getting kind of like building from the ground up, when you're advising startups, what's your top piece of advice for navigating, in a complex regulatory landscape?
My biggest piece of advice is to build thoughtfully. So, big law doesn't have to be so scary. Law doesn't have to be so scary. And it can feel like a really overwhelming fee or a really overwhelming concept to build into this already great idea that's your baby, that you care about, that you're trying to build out. And so my thing is just build thoughtfully. You don't have to 100% of all the legal questions day one. You can piecemeal it and cover yourself along the way, and as long as you keep touching base with your kind of your next level up. It's like, oh, okay, well, we got through this fundraise. Now let's use a chunk of this to go back and assess maybe these areas of risk we allowed to be a little bit heavier during this stage. Let's touch base with them again to make sure we're pacing ourselves so that we don't build out this huge thing, and now we need to go and undo a lot of it because we didn't assess the right legal risks at the right time. So I think building thoughtfully and piecemealing it along the way makes it a lot more palatable, less stressful. It provides comfort without like breaking the bank.
Okay. And for you, what would be step one, let's say, in building thoughtfully? What is a good step one?
I think any founder needs to have a good conversation with a finance guy, a lawyer, VCs. You need to understand where you're going and what your expectations are when you're trying to get there.
And for companies developing their blockchain and Web3 strategies, what do you think they should focus on to build a robust and effective approach?
Community is still the name of the game in crypto and Web3. Community drives community, and just are you able to use it? Usability. We're not quite to where everyone's using crypto in a forward way. I think we're starting to see more crypto or blockchain being used on the back end. And we're seeing this like mullet phase come out where it's like Web 2 in the front, Web 3 in the back, which is fine. That's a great entry point. That's a great backbone. No one really, most people don't know how the internet works, and you don't need to. You just need to know I am using the internet. Like, this works how I expect it to work. But there's not an expectation in crypto or blockchain for something to work in any way, unless you're in it. And then when you're in it, you're making jokes about all the ways it's not working, or all the ways that it's like 10 extra steps to do this like one thing that you find you have to do because you need that meme coin, or you need that NFT, or you need to be part of this DAO. So I think building something that has true utility or usability is key, but I also think it's super community driven still, and that's really not going to change because that's part of the ethos of crypto, is this decentralized ability to collectively gather and make things happen.
Yeah, and you were talking a little bit about those changes that we're starting to see in that space. Are there any like emerging trends or technologies in Web3, blockchain, or crypto that excite you the most? I'm sure there's a lot that's happening, but is there anything specifically that you're most excited about?
Yeah, I'm seeing some really interesting stuff happen with DePIN, which is decentralized physical infrastructuring. And I think that's exciting, right? Like anything to build a better infrastructure for the world that we live in, physically or digitally. I think DeSci is also getting its moment a little bit, where we're kind of rethinking these really archaic ways of getting research done productively and effectively. And DAOs are like a great way to still have that filter, that community, that credibility, the respect, while not having some of the same barriers. I think digital privacy is definitely the name of the game. So we're seeing a lot with zero knowledge proofs, privacy chains. Those come with them a lot more analysis in terms of regulations you're complying with or maybe not complying with, and that's the problem. So I think the biggest, maybe like the most VC interested stuff is definitely the use of privacy, maybe a little AI peppered in, but privacy and ZK proofs are where the big money's going. But the culture's going towards like DePIN and DeSci and solving social issues.
Yeah, you see a lot of people talking about that nowadays. Okay, well, thank you so much for all that insight. It was great to know a little bit about your experience, kind of your journey here, and what you think the future will be like for crypto. But now we want to know a little bit about you personally. So, are there any hobbies you have outside of law?
Yeah. So I am a bit of a Texas Hold'em poker player. I'm a two-time champion of my bar league, and I've been in the World Series of Poker twice. And I was able to cash in two official WSOP events.
Wow, mic drop. That's the best hobby I've heard so far. Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely my funnest one because I don't tend to play at like casinos that often unless I'm at the WSOP. So I end up at these like bars just with like strangers drinking, having a good time, and smoking them in poker.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great.